There is a rumble in the jungle, and when I say jungle, I mean Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., United States of America, as Democrats have stalled the talks of a new Bitcoin bill, a new crypto bill. What do they say? We got footage to show you. Also, we officially have the first state in the United States to pass a Bitcoin strategic reserve bill, and it is none other than, drumroll, New Hampshire. Interesting. What does it mean? How much money could potentially flow? We're going to talk about that. We also have our man Magic joining us to break down the charts. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin, BitTensor. We're going to take a look at XLM. We did have one of our limit orders filled on one of our trades that we put in last week. What is that looking like? We'll give you an update on that. We'll talk a little bit about Solana, and we'll talk a little bit about Cardano. We have that and much, much more on today's episode of SINCITY Crypto. Let's go.
It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to SINCITY Crypto, home of the entertainment-focused cryptocurrency content. Take old, boring, stale information, redo that whole thing up in a fun, sexy way. That's what we do here. Also, we throw price predictions at you. It's been a snooze fest in the price of Bitcoin. She's been hanging around 94, 95. Not doing much. Well, we do think, or at least I do, that I smell a breakout. Smell a big move coming, and it could be off the back of the FOMC meeting tomorrow. Could we get the world's the shock of the century when it comes from the FOMC and perhaps a rate cut?
No,
nobody expects it, but you never know.
Not.
Cool. There it is. David said it's not happening. It's not happening, ladies and gentlemen.
Says the guy who constantly, when the roles are reversed, no, man, CME's at 95%. They're never wrong. And now you want to say that a rate cut's going to happen?
No, it's not going to happen. But I'm just speculating. I'm just saying that maybe you never know. You never know.
No, we do know it's not going to happen.
It could happen.
If he does, that means he bend the knee to Trump. And when I say he, I mean Jerome Powell, of course. But there's a lot to talk about today. And where do I want to start? Do I want to start with the Democrats, or do I want to start with a Democratic state who just approved a Bitcoin bill? Let's start with the state. Let's start with the state of New Hampshire. This is, they voted blue last cycle of this presidential election. And while they're the first to create and officially pass into law a Bitcoin strategic reserve bill, this headline here, breaking from CoinGape, Gaping Coins. HB 302, that's the name of the bill, is now law, the first of its kind in the country. Under the new law, the state treasurer can buy Bitcoin and another digital asset with a market cap of at least $500 billion. Now, obviously, the only thing now that's worth over $500 billion is Bitcoin. But that's the threshold. And so whether it's Ethereum, whether it's XRP, whether it's BNB, I don't know. Whoever gets to $500 billion can now be considered as part of the strategic reserve in the state of New Hampshire. With the proposed law, the state can hold up to 5% of its funds in digital currencies. When they say funds, they mean public funds. Well, according to the numbers I searched on Google, those numbers are around $4.5 billion, which means $225 million could be allocated to BTC with this new bill. It's not Michael Saylor numbers, but it ain't chump change either. That's $250 million. It's a lot of money. And but I think the big news here is New Hampshire is the first. Yesterday, we shared news that Arizona vetoed the bill. The very next day, we have news that another state actually passed it into law. Rob, thoughts?
We're going to move to New Hampshire or what? Bye-bye, SINCITY Crypto.
Everyone's moving away from New Hampshire because you know what they did with Elon Musk and didn't want to pay him his payout.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Really?
Yeah.
That was like huge news. He signed a deal that he wouldn't take a single dime unless he took the company from.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right, yeah. $600 million to $6 billion, and then when it came time to pay the piper, a judge in New Hampshire ruled against it. So yeah, Elon was up in arms. Anyways, talking about Bitcoin, not Tesla here. I'm a little shocked that it was a blue state because New Hampshire is a blue state. They voted for Kamala Harris in the last election cycle, and now this bill, $225 million, can now flow into BTC.
The Republicans did change their tune towards the end of the election. Remember, you had Kamala Harris saying Kamala for crypto.
Yeah.
We know that Biden had reversed his stance. He's not very quick at reversing any stance. He's got a stance. It's hard to keep balance. But
didn't even know what he was doing.
Anyways, they made at least a public facing effort to get behind crypto. Did they do anything? No. So the tides are turning, right? It's not as black as white. It's not as black and white as other issues when it comes to crypto. And at least crypto itself is it's a little bit more across party lines. So I'm not shocked. Right?
Well, you might be shocked at this one. Florida's 2 Bitcoin reserve bills die in committee. Moment of silence. I said silence. Moment. You don't talk during moments of silence.
I'm not.
Florida's Bitcoin reserve proposals, HB 487 and SB 550, were withdrawn after a brief period of momentum ending in a legislative defeat. And so Florida, which, I don't know, if you told me yesterday, hey, David, tomorrow we're going to come into the show, and between Florida and New Hampshire, one of them is the bill's going to die, the other one they're going to pass it. I would have said, yeah, Florida's probably going to pass the bill, but here we are. It died in Florida. It got vetoed in Arizona. Utah went with some weird watered down version of a Bitcoin thing. It wasn't even a strategic reserve. New Hampshire stands alone. And so you're going to start seeing these shoes drop. We know you got other states like Texas. There's a few other ones to keep an eye out for. But we have our first one, which is very exciting. And so shout out to all the New Hampshireans. What's the right word to say? New Hampshires and New Hampshires. I don't know.
Who identifies by their state? Has anybody ever called
you
you
Nevadans?
How many times has that vocabulary came out of your mouth?
Not out of my mouth, but out of other people's mouths. Just because you don't say it or don't think it doesn't mean
you don't either. That's my whole point.
Yes, I do. You didn't hear me the other day?
No.
How the
And I was
people
like, wow,
from
I'm proud to be
Virginia
a
call.
Nevadan.
And how the people from Virginia? Virgins?
Virginians?
Oh, Virginians.
Virgins, Indians. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Anyways, I do want to share this. Michael Saylor talking about how Bitcoin is going to get to $47 million a coin.
Oh, jeez.
At this point, it's like just random numbers.
Star system.
It's going to $886 billion a coin, guys. Buy it now, you'll forever not be able to buy it. Okay, let's take a listen. What do you have to say?
And what you're going to see is companies are going to create extraordinary products, extraordinary services. There's going to be a 100x increase in productivity. There's going to be a 100x increase in everything. We're going to produce more of everything in every way that everybody can imagine. And if you're a corporation, if you're a private actor, if you're a capitalist, what are you going to do with that capital? You're going to roll it into Bitcoin. The AIs are going to want to buy the Bitcoin. The companies are going to buy the Bitcoin. The demand is going to be for the most scarce, desirable, liquid, fungible capital asset. And so the explosion of productivity with digital property and digital intelligence and digital labor will create an explosion in demand for digital capital. And I think all of those are just mutually beneficial trends. And if you're a company, you just want to figure out how your shareholders benefit, how your customers benefit, how your employees benefit from this.
So, the title here of this this post says AI will send Bitcoin to 47. You know what I was thinking? All the hype about AI agents and they'll be able to invest for you and they'll essentially be your financial advisor, or you can give it a wallet and fund it and tell it what you want it to do and it'll do it for you. Rob, can you imagine a scenario where that happens and people take advantage of it. I don't know. Maybe it's an AI agent replacing a financial advisor or just in the crypto world in general. And part of the strategy is just to buy Bitcoin. You say, hey, I want to turn $100,000 into $1 million in 4 years with limited risk, yada, yada, whatever, however this thing plays out. And then Bitcoin becomes part of that strategy. You know, it's an interesting thought I came up with about 5 minutes ago.
Well, congratulations. Your brain's working. All right. So, you know, I've always used that.
Have you seen today's thumbnail, by the way?
I did.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
So I have just repeatedly told people over and over again, and similar to what conversation we're having here or Sailor's having.
Okay.
And when people just talk about Bitcoin and they're talking about crypto, like, first of all, like if you're not in the crypto circles and we're hanging out and I'm at a barbecue, like I ain't got time to sit here and tell you about altcoins. I don't really care to. You're probably gonna end up losing your money anyways. You're gonna end up buying something stupid. So I just tell people, I'm like, look, man, just buy Bitcoin. The altcoins are for the professionals, for people that want to roll up their sleeves, get to work, and make some money. But if you ain't got time to sit here and pay attention and know what's trending and watch our show, then just buy some damn Bitcoin. Don't overcomplicate it. And then I always just tell people, I'm like, hey, Bitcoin will be $1 million at some time in your lifetime.
47 million.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that my go-to is $1 million. And we know that it'll surpass $1 million at some point. Yeah, but I like to use nice round numbers for the normies out here. And I say, like, you, that's just working, you know, paycheck to paycheck. You might be proud of your $3,500 savings account. And let me explain to you. Bitcoin will be $1 million at some point. So buy some now at less than 100,000. If you buy a half of one over the course of the next year and a half, well, guess what? You'll have $500,000 at some point. And more than likely, it'll be $2 million Bitcoin, which means you'll have $1 million just simply by buying half a Bitcoin. And so I try to use these analogies to people and explain the situation and where the price is going to eventually go. And, you know, people got no problem figuring it out to buy a car for 50 grand. You can, like, how many people in this room, how many people are watching, have a car that costs over $50,000? Probably most of you, except for David. He's got a cheap one. But if you can figure out
how are you laughing, Rocco? We have the same car. Thank you.
If you can figure out how to get 50 grand for a car, figure out how to get 50 grand for a Bitcoin, because it's going to
take a loan, man. Take a loan. Sell your kidney.
Why not? You'll take a loan out for a car, depreciating asset. I mean, genuinely, why not take I know it's not my financial advice. It's what I do, but I genuinely take out loans, 5 figures, and I buy crypto. And then I end up paying it back slowly over time with my monthly payments. And then at the end of 2 years, I now have what was original purchase of 20 or 50 grand of a crypto, and then it ends up being 50 to 100 grand a few years later. I do the same. You'll do the same for a car. You go buy a car for $50,000. You're happy spending $800 a month on that payment. But why can't you spend $700-800 a month on your future? I mean, that's just the way I look at it. Now, that's not financial advice. My strategy won't work for a lot of people.
I'm just curious. When you fill that application out and it says, why do you need to borrow this money? What do you put?
Remodeling.
Because I know your ass ain't putting altcoins.
Always renovation.
I know you're not putting Cardano.
It's not wrong, because I will sell my crypto to renovate my house. You know, I did my backyard. I sold some crypto. So at the time when I took the loan out, it was for a future renovation that I hadn't really thought about yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Financial renovation.
Anyways, yeah, my car ain't 50 grand. I got a Toyota Camry.
Yeah, my it is.
You know,
that's
funny.
what it cost me.
Rob and I were having this conversation, and he's like, "We're gonna get a new car, man." I was like, "Look, man, I got a lot more things to worry about. I'm not really worried about a new car." I was like, "If I do, I'm getting a Toyota." He's like, "Why?" Toyotas never break down. He's like, "Dude, when you're making $10 million a month, you're not gonna care that a car, you have to service a car once every 3 months versus once every 2 years." And I was like, "Damn it, he's right. Damn it, he's right." So I just wanted to admit that on air. You're welcome. I do want to give a big thank you to today's channel sponsor. Today's show is brought to you by Legacy Network and the Legacy Academy app, which you can download for free on Apple and Google Play stores and earn their LGCT token, which has been one of the best performing altcoins over the last 3 months. And this entire time, you could have been earning it for free in the app, which is also free for now. Take it that you will. I'd recommend, if you don't have it already, do it. It's fun. You learn, you earn, you buy stuff. Maybe you don't need to take a loan. Maybe you just sell your LGCT token and use that to buy your favorite altcoin or whatever you want to do. Download the damn app. Thank you very much. And thank you to Legacy for sponsoring today's show. With that being said, we got Magic coming on in a little bit. But first, let's take a peek at the overall markets. And then when we bring Magic on, we'll ask him to break the charts down. I do want to give an update. We are currently deep in the red on a trade. If you guys remember, I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday, we put in some limit orders. Well, guess what? This one filled. And it was Athena at 26.85 cents. And well, this is not a initially good sign. But I'm letting this thing go all the way down to 25.12. That's where my stop loss is. If we break below that, then I'll take it as an L. But I do think we get a bounce here, as we've seen once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Will this be 7th? I hope so. If not, then, well, we have to regroup and figure out why this thing didn't hold, and maybe we short it to death, or maybe we find the next support level to potentially long this token. But just want to give you guys an update on that. And then for the rest of the altcoins, ETH under $1,800, XRP at $2.12, BNB at sub 600. So as Rob mentioned, altcoins are flat, the biggest losers on the day. Our Virtuals protocol seeing a retracement around 12.5%, sitting at $1.46. Radium is down, Walrus, and Curve. There was an issue with Curve. I believe their X handle got compromised. And so the hackers had posted some token. Hopefully none of you bought it. Hopefully. And then Athena down 7.64%. And then the biggest gainers, Monero is up the most, 3.65, a paltry number. And then gold, look at that. Tether gold, Pax gold, and real gold is also up. But the big talking point here, my friends, is this Bitcoin dominance chart. And well, we wish our alts did this, but the dominance is doing this. And so with that being said, I'm going to bring my man Magic on the show. Magic, welcome back. Do alts have a single chance if Bitcoin dominance doesn't fall below 60%?
As a group, as a whole, no.
Okay.
There are going to be individual winners, of course, but after that, I don't think so. I think the years and cycles of everything pumping to the moon and beyond are probably behind us.
I agree. And, you know, there was a post by, let me pull this up real quick. Our friend Army Piper, he put this post in, and I thought it was so spot on. And this is what a lot of people don't want to hear. He said, stop lying to yourself and others. With over 35 million altcoins in existence, there will never be another traditional alt season again. It will move in sectors and liquidity will shift between. There is not enough liquidity or retail to lift the whole tide, only waves. I couldn't agree more with the statement. We have said this numerous times on the show. It is no longer the world of everything's going to pump. You're going to see a lot of coins that you might be holding just slowly bleed and trend to zero, which is why we've been talking about keep your eye on these sectors, these tokens, what's pushing innovation forward, and what are people using. And if people aren't using it, unless the project gets people to use it, it's probably going to trend to zero over the long term. Now, it might take 5 years, it might take 2 years, it might take 2 months, and this thing blows up. I don't know. But don't get caught holding the bag. That's all I'm saying. Any thoughts you want to share on that, Magic? I know you kind of said the same thing.
I completely agree. I think that you can certainly trade these things. I think it's just, you need to be in that dating phase of your investment life for it rather than the marriage.
You know, I knew there was a reason I was sharpening my knife. I've been married 14 years happily. I love my wife. She's the best. But sometimes I got to keep the knife sharp, baby. You never know when you get back on the dating scene, and especially when it comes to altcoins. Magic, if we can, my friend, start with BTC. Last week you were on. We had this conversation. Are we going to 100K first? Or are we going to retrace to 91.5 or 91.3? You said 91.3. Bitcoin, I believe, is currently sitting at 94.
Give or take.
Maybe 94 flat. 94.7. So we're seeing a little bit of a rally, but it's just is this going to be another 3 months of just bounce between 91 and 97, Magic? What are you seeing on the chart?
I think that if we get chopped that long, that we'll probably dip lower into like the 87, 88K range, personally. But that's not a bad thing. It's not a death sentence if that happens, if it holds. And, to skip back in time, it would be very reminiscent of something like, and I'll get rid of all these pivots because I know you guys are tired of seeing them every week. Here we go. Be very reminiscent of this. And the reason I bring this up is we've done this before, different timing in the cycle. But when it hit 10K here, it really went sideways for a while, but you got some mixed signals in terms of like your monthly and bi-monthly pivots in this range. But you can see that it just chopped around here. Everyone was expecting a new low or expecting lower. I want a big retrace. And when it didn't come and it finally broke out after 4 or 5 months, you got that move up. The similarities to this are realistically going to be here in the yearly pivots, actually. Your yearly pivot is right there, which is coincidentally where we're sitting now on top of it. So that's what you want to see, is you want to see it to continue to hold that yearly pivot. And as long as the lows from April are holding, this thing can go sideways into the summer. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would be more cautious on a new high if it just jettisoned into space here, to be upfront with you. That would be, to me, one of those things where from a structural standpoint, I'd be looking for the new high to come in relatively soon after that, right? So you want to see a little bit of consolidation and a move back down into this. As you can see, the 87.7. This is going to be your monthly and your bi-monthly pivot, but your yearly pivot's all the way down here, this big thick boy here. That's the one you want to see holding. So if it comes back down, again, we talked about this. If it comes down to 91.5, maybe even dips below into this like 88, 89K range, depending on how conservative you are and risk tolerant you are, nothing's really broken. Now for immediate upside, where do I change my mind on those targets? It's pretty simple. Last week, we left the point of control naked. It's also our high to low gold pocket here. So, if you go back to last week and you take a gander, maybe we can do that. Last week, take a gander. That is going to be the highest point of volume from last week. It's your gold pocket. Back above that level puts me in the mindset that this is going to try to attempt to push to at least a new high. And I think that there's relative resistance at like 98 to 100K. But, if you're living above this area, all is well on Bitcoin. So, that's realistically it. I'm looking at things, I guess, through a pretty large lens. In terms of that as well, if you go out to the 6-month range or the yearly range in this case as well, you can also see that weekly naked point of control is right at the developing point of control, one for this entire consolidation, but two for the year of 2025. So if it does pump back above like this 96, 97K region, that's where I start to say, man, in the short term, this has a really good shot at trying to rotate above these highs and put in a new one. So anything below here, though, at 87.7, it's not over, but it's definitely, I start to lean towards, hey, it had its chance and things aren't looking good. It really depends on the rest of the market and what it looks like, I guess. But that's Bitcoin in a nutshell.
Awesome.
So,
and we know gold's kind of starting to rally again. Rob's whole thesis has been gold ran, which means Bitcoin's going to run. I don't know about that. He also said that gold doesn't go up and the stocks go down, which I thought was the dumbest thing he ever said. But we'll leave that for another day. What kind of correlation do you look, when you look at gold, Magic, and you see how Bitcoin's been performing, do you take anything from that? Because I got a feeling gold's going to continue to rally, and I think people are going to be waiting for BTC to rally alongside of it. What are your thoughts on that?
I try not to correlation trade too much. And the reason is correlations do kind of come and go. And I'm sure over time we'll cement a better one where it's like there's a more reliable one over the years. But with Bitcoin, it's more relatable to the stock market, in my opinion. But the gold correlation was really big back in like 19 and 20. There was a pretty good chunk of time. I want to say it was about a year where you could pretty much, if gold was rallying, you could just go long Bitcoin, or vice versa. So I try not to correlation trade because it's only good until it isn't, so at the same time, you still have to have invalidation for trading or investing. So I think it's always best to take a look at the asset and maybe just, throw some fundamentals in there for yourself if you need the reason why. Some people do, some don't, but
Awesome.
for me, I don't put a lot into correlation, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, Magic. Can we take a peek at BitTensor? Tau.
Yeah.
It's a project I am
Is that BTT
uber
or
bullish
TAO?
on. This thing is the Bitcoin of alts, in my opinion. Yeah, what's the chart telling you, man?
I feel like we looked at this one at some point. And is it
It's
BTT
been one of the better performers.
Or TAO? I can't remember if it's Is it BTT?
No, TAO.
TAO, that's right. You said Tau. Okay, Tau.
There's also a nightclub called Tau in Las Vegas.
I pulled up XLM. I was betting on which one you would ask for first.
We can go with XLM. We can start with XLM. You've got it on your chart.
XLM, it's super easy. We've talked about this one before. All the levels are the same, so hopefully you guys like consistency. Lower highs on the yearly chart. We had said that we're really not interested in this until the 2023 high last time we talked about it because it was bouncing at this 12-month settle up here. So we said we're going to probably backtest this high, make a new low, and that's where I'd get interested again. And you can see that's right where we've been at. So really easy chart to trade. Just trade the major levels, 2023 high. You can probably even get rid of this one here and start looking at this as needs to get back above this 2017 high range and this yearly range. So as you guys can, if you recall, we just combined a parallel channel with the yearly highs from 2018 on the closure side and then the lows. You could very easily add something like a midpoint in there if you wanted to, and it's pretty close to the 2023 high. So I think that's why we chose it. And it's a relevant high because you can see that if you lose that yearly high, you're probably going to retrace this entire candle back down to like 7 cents. So 19 cents was the region. And this can bounce quite heavily and do absolutely nothing, which I think we're already kind of in that mindset. And that's not to badmouth anything. It's just, it's an altcoin. It's bounced 50%. It has changed no market structure. If you were to take a gander at it right here, you can see that you still have not closed daily candles back above here where you've started swing failing a level. Still a very good level. So to me, if it breaks above these local highs that it just put in, you're probably going to run it to like 35 to 37 cents. And that really becomes the area that is most important. Even on like a monthly time frame, you can see that there is very good amount of respect, even though it's a yearly level that was given. A lot of closures that just beneath it, kind of like setting you up for that, hey, it's going to retrace into the range. We've done the same thing here, come back into it. Now you've back tested it. It needs to live back above this region. And if you can do that, I think it's got a real shot at trying to challenge into like that 50 cent and beyond region. And then you look at these as like a trend line and saying maybe this is like a giant wedge pattern. I think we can go to log and it's probably easier to see. And, maybe it's just a giant consolidation. And we discussed this idea that it is a giant wedge consolidation. It will be coming to an end soon. And generally when you play something like this, whether it's a megaphone or a triangle, patterns are subjective, but what is a general rule of thumb is you want to be aware of where the 50% mark is. If you're getting close to the edge of this thing, which looks like it's about to pop, you want to be above the halfway point. You want to be in a good position, which is about where the 2023 high was, if you recall. So this area needs to hold. You could box it off, whatever you want to do, whatever's easiest for yourself, but it would be somewhere right around here. And as long as 15.59 up to 19.59 is holding as support, this little zone, bulls kind of have a shot here to put pressure onto this resistance that's been there since 2018. So for 5, 6, 7 years and make a push higher. But the moment you lose it, you start to run the risk of coming all the way back down to the lows, which is sub 10 cent region. And those bags that we talked about not marrying earlier, if you got the prenup, you're in a good spot. If you didn't, you're probably going to have to sit through some pain for a while.
Magic, are you drawing patterns? I know you're not a big pattern trader. Is there?
I'm not. The reason I wanted to draw it is it's just really easy to kind of look at the 50% mark and just kind of validate why it's important. And when you do look at patterns, and that's how I started in trading, it's not that they're invalid and I don't give them credence in some cases. It's just one of those things where I found the edge is typically not as good. So, some of those patterns are 50-50 up to 60%. The really good ones are close to 60, which, gives some consideration. But at that point, there are better ways to trade. So, you could automate those percentage wins and percentage playouts if you wanted to with very simple ideas. So, pattern trading to me is it's too subjective. Because, you could see, I don't know, someone could do this, I guess. This is why I don't pattern trade as much. And I know we're off topic here, but bear with me. So a person could do this and say, well, this is an ascending triangle, not a symmetrical, which means this is inherently bullish and not bearish. Well, that's why I use that 50% mark, because regardless of how you see this and how you drew it, this area, if lost, it's pressure to invalidate your idea. Whereas above here, you can challenge the resistance, which is just kind of, changed a little bit of shape, and it is what it is. And it looks like consolidation under resistance, and more of if we're going into the patterns, you're now looking at is this a rising three valleys? Am I getting the rising three valleys in a breakout, which is essentially almost always like an ascending triangle. Not quite the same. If you guys are curious what I'm talking about, find Bolkowski's books. He's got a pattern recognition book. I believe I have volumes 1 and 2 in the group for people, but that would be what I was referencing.
Oh. So it's kind of like wine. You and I can have the same wine, and you can taste some different, and I can taste some different. So I agree, it is subjective. That's why I don't. I definitely use patterns, but I also use supporting evidence as well. I don't just blindly trade breakouts or breakdowns with patterns. Okay, Magic. Can we take a look at BitTensor now? TAO. This has been one of my favorites. It's been performing extremely well. So from a fundamental standpoint, the subnet growth has exploded. The DTAO, the tokenomics of the dynamic TAO, allowing people to stake directly to a subnet and not just to the mainnet, has been a massive success. There's a lot of money that's been flowing in. What are you seeing from a TA standpoint?
Not a bad chart. I think I found the chart we were talking about. I knew it was either on Binance or MEXC, because I think we haven't looked at this in a long time. But if you recall, this blue zone, which I don't expect you to, was an SFP here on the monthly time frame. That's why it's labeled MSFP. So monthly closures below here are non-existent. And we said if we lose this area, which we did, we expect to make a new low, which we actually left the low. So the yearly low did get left, which would have been one of those things where, we were wrong there. If you were waiting for that SFP, it just never came. But on a monthly basis here, you're back at the 2023 high. So going back to the yearly, you can see this level, it still has some importance, but we can probably change it and actually just remove it from our chart just to clean things up. And what would be more relevant right now is going to be the yearly high. As always, almost on every chart that you look at, this is going to be very important. And pardon me while we update this so that everything stays in order. Get rid of this gold pocket. And straight away, yearly open, super important. This thing can bounce quite high. It needs to recover this, because if it gives up support here to re-challenge this area before doing this, you won't get that attempt into your monthly resistance all the way up at $698. So for right now, I would expect, as long as you're living above the current monthly low, that'd be the easiest way to look at it. I know we're only a weekend, but if we're above $339 and this is a positive month, Bitcoin's not breaking down, I would expect to see at least 440 as a challenge. And that's going to be a pretty big level on the chart, as we talked about. That's your yearly open. It's something that you're going to want to see reclaimed. You can see you attempted to here in February and just failed and came down and made that new low we've discussed. Let me look at it quarterly real quick. But yeah, range bound, nothing bad. But if you do start closing candles back below 247 at any point, I do anticipate that we would end up actually being correct. We just weren't patient enough that this low from 2024 is going to get taken out and, likely come all the way down to like the $100 range. But until then, this is decent. When we look at it, it's range bound above yearly open. You've got a real shot at trying to challenge back into this high range here, or at least taking out the previous quarter's high at 588. But I'd really start looking between 588 and an all-time high at that point. So yearly open 440, that's the level. That's where you want to be living. And when I say living, I mean, don't come up here like this on a monthly basis and then come back down. You want to start seeing, Like let's say it recovered it in May. We want to see June open up above this. Maybe it wicks below, but we want to see it closing above and holding it as support. And then you can start to see that push for a new high. But until then, range bound, pretty neutral. Not a bad chart, just not a ton of history. It's only a couple years old, but I know in cryptocurrency that doesn't matter. But the only thing I would be wary of is current market structure is, overall, it's just straight up. But you do have the patented McDonald's forming. And what you don't want to see is that third lower high and then back to support. And then we talked patterns earlier. This one's actually a very high hit rate in crypto land because a lot of these coins are just absolutely beat to hell. This one's not. But that would be a descending triangle. So yearly open, super important. Need to invalidate that idea. And if you do, you can start to look at this and project for highs even potentially. You could say that this could end up being like a butterfly. That's pretty close. It would be like a 1.272 would be where you want to be at. That just doesn't work out. So you're realistically looking at a deep crab. And that would actually be almost not valid either. But it puts you around like the $1,200 range at that point on like a full scale breakout to new all-time highs. But we need more information to see that. So for now, if you're trading this, I think the yearly open's a really good spot to be looking to lock in some gains. If you haven't, if you think that is too conservative and that this thing is going to new highs and beyond, I would just say best of luck. I would never wish ill on anyone's bags, So that's it. You want to see yourself get up here, crush the yearly open. You're going to hit the gold pocket at some point. And if you do, you want to see this become support, not resistance. You don't want to come up here above it, give it back up, and then come down. That's it. So it's a very simple chart. Sometimes not as much information isn't a bad thing.
I wish it gets to $100 as long as nothing fundamentally changed. Because I'll my wife.
If
and I
it
will have
does
a nice
go to
long
100,
conversation.
the rest of the market's cooked. That's all I'll say. Is if this goes to $100, it's because Bitcoin's breaking down and other things as well. So I mean, the whole market's cooked at that point. You're going to get a lot of opportunities. Yeah,
everyone's expecting a recession. Magic. We did have a comment from someone in the chat. They said, "Why doesn't Magic take?" Where's that comment? Why doesn't Magic take any requests? Oh, would be cool if Magic took viewer requests instead of always charting the crypto that the hosts are balls deep in. And so I asked Jimmy what he wants to take a look at. He wants you to take a look at Pulse Chain. Just kidding. I'm totally joking. We are not.
I was going to, but it's not going to be a good one.
Absolutely not. No. Jimmy, you can always start your own channel and invite Magic to come on your show, and he can chart whatever you like to chart. But in the time being, Magic, before we let you go, any charts for a potential trade setup that you're looking at currently? That maybe if you want to spill the beans to the people watching.
A lot of them have kind of played out because we got all the bounces we're looking for. So really kind of looking at Solana here in this region to see if it's going to be a shortable opportunity back down into this range, or if it doesn't and rejects. So to me, I'm looking at Solana maybe for some longs. It's either going to be a short or a long opportunity. I think the long opportunity would be potentially better, assuming Bitcoin remains range bound. So if Bitcoin takes a dip down to say $88,000 to $91,000, we'll give it a wide zone here. You got to think what's going to happen to everything else in the space. And so if you're looking to play other assets like a Solana or something, and statistically we're in the 70+ percentile region of Bitcoin reaching 88. To be honest with you, that's the monthly pivot, and that's about what the hit rate is for those. If it happens to do that, where's my support for Solana? And you could very easily start mapping that out right here and saying, there's my quarterly open. There's the 2023 high. I've got a local gold pocket beneath it. It would be a higher low on a bullish reversal pattern that's already playing out. I missed the reversal. Let's say you didn't, long the box that we put up. Well, you could very easily start looking at things like this and saying, this is where I want to be at. The only other one I looked at realistically was Caspa. And not necessarily looking to do too much with it. I was just pointing out that these are the levels that we decided on last time we covered it, was the B leg. We said that's the first target. And these harmonics, they play out well. So I know we just bashed traditional patterns, but I do use them. I just kind of favor others. And this is the area to get back above. So we've tagged 10 cents. And if you're above 10 cents, this thing's got a real shot at trying to run this range again, which would be a pretty big move. I mean, it could run it all the way up to 15 cents. And so from the lows at 5, that's a 300% move or 200% move or whatever it is. Pretty cool. So yeah, that's realistically all I got. And to anyone that wants like requests and stuff like that, this is their show. But if enough people did it, I'm sure they would let you guys put in requests in their Discord or something, and we could always work something out where I'll go live on their channel when they're not doing their main show, and we'll do like something for you guys there.
Okay,
that doesn't bother me. So
okay, well, we appreciate that, Magic.
Stance, yeah.
All right, Magic. As always, my friend, we appreciate your time. We're gonna Rocco. Can we drop Magic's Discord link in the chat? Make sure to go join his Discord, guys. Highly recommended. We love Magic. That's why we bring him on every single week. There's only 2 people we do that to: Magic and Forrest. Every week, Tuesdays, Fridays. Those are the only 2 people, and that's for good reason. Magic, as always, thank you very much, my friend, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys. Thank you.
All right. With that being said, what happened to my co-host here? Where'd he go?
He went for a break.
Robin, come on, buddy. We got to talk some crypto news here, my friend. Okay. Let's talk about this. House Democrats walk out on digital assets hearing over Trump's crypto corruption. The crypto corruption. Okay. House Democrats prevented a crypto-focused hearing from proceeding Tuesday in protest of President Trump's crypto ventures. Representative Maxine Waters, who led the walkout, said its purpose was to add language to crypto bills, preventing the president from profiting from the sector while in office. This is the hang-up. So one person doesn't profit from crypto. Okay. This was from Stephen Lynch, from a Democrat from, Massachusetts, who's Elizabeth Warren's home state. President Trump's crypto dealings are estimated to be a total of $2.9 billion, nearly 40% of his total wealth, he exclaimed. Although little do they know, but a lot of it's in very illiquid tokens that he couldn't even imagine to sell to realize those gains. Several Democrats led by Waters then walked out to convene a separate roundtable across the street centered on, quote, Trump's crypto corruption. We have live footage, courtesy of Coinage. Thanks for posting that. Here is inside look into, how this thing went at the Capitol.
The activity will be
I object
viewed.
to this joint hearing pursuant to the House rules. This joint hearing requires unanimous consent, and I do not consent.
You are recognized. May I ask the basis for the objection from the ranking member?
I object to this joint hearing because of the corruption of the President of the United States and his ownership of crypto and his oversight of all the agencies. I object.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, ranking, and to my colleagues on the Agricultural Committee as well, Ranking Member Waters has objected to this hearing because of the clear conflicts of interest between President Trump and his family's personal crypto ventures and the legislative proposals our committee are considering. President Trump and his family are exploiting the presidency to enrich themselves using their personal crypto business, World Liberty Financial. Never in American history has a sitting president so blatantly violated the ethics laws.
I asked the ranking member. The gentleman was offered a moment to comment. The gentleman was offered a moment to comment on the objection. The gentleman is no longer recognized.
$2.9 billion.
The gentleman is no longer
nearly 40%
recognized.
of his
You will
total
be
wealth
recognized during this hearing.
Issuing a meme coin, governance
the
token,
gentleman,
and
Mr. Lynch, would be noticed if he was in a hearing.
Of which
he would have the
75% of the
ability
proceeds
to speak
go
under
to
the protections that are provided in the
every
House
detail
rules.
of his dealings contains
Ranking
a
Member
conflict
Lynch, you are
of
no
interest.
longer recognized by the chair. The gentlelady's objection is heard. We'll now move into
Mr. Chairman,
the
I
round
ask
table.
my remarks be entered into the record.
It is too bad for the ranking member that it is not a hearing. If it was a hearing, the ranking member would be protected by House rules. There was an objection from the ranking member of the full committee.
On her objection. I object.
The committee, the objection is heard. The objection is heard, and we will now move into a roundtable. We want to hear from our participants who've traveled to share their.
So you have that, and then I believe they went across the street or wherever the hell they went, and they had their own meeting on crypto. It's just funny that they're trying to hold this thing up.
They went in a bar
because of one guy. What do you think, Rocco?
The Masculine Water, the same person that was sending kisses to SBI.
Hey, they were just acknowledgments. They weren't kisses, okay? It was just acknowledging. It's like, we acknowledge each other when you come in the studio. I'm like, hey, Rocco. I'm like, hey.
It's not the first time there are some president that are making money out of their presidency. No, it's not the first time. So.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but to sit there and harpoon the entire meeting because of that, I think is
stupid.
Pretty dumb.
Yeah, they have an interest, no?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. None of them have an interest, especially Nancy Pelosi, who. Anyways, I thought that was pretty interesting. And so, I don't know, man. I feel like we're definitely a lot more ahead than we were a year, 2, 3, 5 years ago. There's definitely still some people in the way. And so, to those people that are advocates in the world of politics that, participate in that realm, I don't think the fight's over. And so this election cycle, we saw the crypto voice loud and clear. Well, don't forget, there's another midterm. If you live in the U.S., there's another midterm that they're going to start promoting the end of this year, going into next year for the midterms. And just remember stuff like this, and just know if you want the space to move forward, act accordingly. I was going to say something else, but I won't say it. I'll just say act accordingly. And then I do want to share this. This is a CNBC. This was Goldman Sachs, and this is their plans for Bitcoin and crypto.
Goldman Sachs is ramping up its push into digital assets. The firm expanding trading activity, exploring crypto lending, and betting big on tokenization, particularly for treasuries and money market funds, amid a pro-crypto shift under President Trump. I spoke to Goldman's head of digital assets on stage at the Token 2049 conference in Dubai to break down where the bank is placing its bets.
We're also looking at kind of other kind of innovations in terms of product offering as clients become more and more active.
Rocco, is this the first time Goldman Sachs has ever attended a crypto native conference?
I'm not sure. I think so. It is.
Find out. Can we find out?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I don't ever remember a Goldman Sachs person at any crypto conference.
No.
And so I'm curious, or if anyone out there watching wants to fact check that or give me some info, I would truly appreciate it. Now back to the video.
Active, and I think that's kind of one of the key things we've seen, just the breadth of clients now eager to kind of get more actively involved in trading the kind of the asset class. We're also, kind of focused on lending as well. That's something hopefully subject to a variety of different approvals we're looking to build out in the not too distant future as well. So we're kind of very active kind of in that space, secondaries with private equity, etc. The second part of the business is really driven around kind of tokenization and the use for kind of collateral mobility. And I think from a kind of traditional financial perspective, this is kind of one of the biggest opportunities we see. So if you think you've got kind of Donald Trump talking about the crypto capital of the world being the US, kind of what does that fundamentally mean? It means you're probably going to need a 24/7 marketplace. And so as people start to trade beyond the normal market kind of hours, this ability to tokenize treasuries, money market funds, and other asset classes becomes very key as you want to optimize your kind of margin allocation. And then there's just a lot more kind of utility in and around that. So tokenization has been a big kind of focus for us. So as we think about our projects, one of which is in that space, really thinking about utility for kind of institutional use as it just starts to really scale, creates liquidity and sizable marketplace.
Goldman Sachs.
We know Coinbase rolled out Bitcoin loans. You're going to see that across the board. And that's going to unlock a new wave of liquidity for people. We talk about, assets you own, right? Your house. You own a house. Well, you don't really own the house. You are a part owner of the house. And then if you want to borrow money against it, you got to go through a whole process, a credit check, yada, yada. Maybe you need the money to fix your credit, but you can't because you need the money. And you can't get the money unless you have good credit. And so if you have Bitcoin and the Bitcoin's worth, $250,000 and you got half of a Bitcoin, that's $125,000 that you should be able to get liquid for whatever you need if you decide to borrow against your Bitcoin. And so I think we're entering into a financial arena where crypto, and I think Bitcoin specifically, is going to be so interwoven. And I think it's going to unlock a brand new world of money and liquidity for, I think, the average retail user and investor that's, I think, only has been available and really viable for the affluent. And so we know this is, in my opinion, the best opportunity that the average person has ever had to front run the institutions, the governments, and the hedge funds. And I think we're going to reap the rewards of those benefits. And so Goldman Sachs has talked about it. Coinbase is already rolling it out. You're going to see it across the board. I think borrowing money is going to become easier, even without the Fed cutting rates, if we have things like this in place where you can borrow against a hard digital asset like BTC. I do want to cover a news here from, this is from Bitcoins, 99 Bitcoins. There's an article about Cardano and Charles Hoskinson. Charles plans to make ADA an AI crypto. Is Cardano's price set to moonshot? Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson has just announced a major upgrade that has piqued the interest of the ADA community and outsiders alike. The upgrade would see Cardano pivoting heavily into the AI crypto space in a long-awaited boost to the Cardano price. And this is what they're referring to as part of the Laos research agenda. We are going to build a testnet running the protocol at the fastest possible speeds. We'll populate it with thousands of AI agents to trade amongst each other. Any Cardano dApps want to sign up to deploy on Face Melting Net, FMN. And so, hey, Cardano, they also want AI agents. And so hopefully those of you watching who have been watching have a decent exposure in AI agents and just AI in general, because this narrative is not going away and it's going to make us a lot of money. With that being said, we are done for today's show. I want to thank every single one of you for joining us today. Also, a big thank you to Mr. Magic, Internet Money. Also, if you haven't bought your Bitcoin tickets yet, make sure to do so. Prices go up on Friday. Use our link to save an additional 10% off. And that's all I got. Rocco, anything from you?
No, good.
Good. All right, Rocco. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We appreciate every single one of you. Big thank you to my co-host, who surprisingly stayed quiet and let me get 2 words in. And guys, we look forward to having you back here. Oh, tomorrow, we may not do a show, so make sure you're following us on X because we will post it there. We'll let you know tomorrow. Until then, peace.
Ciao a tutti.
So every day stay tapped in. For big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I split the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming hola till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar.